So despite the holiday season, we have more than 180 people registered for today's webinar. So we see the topic is really generating a lot of interest. We just have like 30 minutes for our slides. So we'll directly jump into the content in just one moment. Before, let me briefly present today's speakers. So my name is Eloy. I'm CEO at Nexa. Nexa is a reporting agency that has fully specialized on digital corporate reporting. I will guide you through our presentation and the first results of our research together with my colleague Frederick. And after that, we will have a short discussion with our experts and the drivers of today's research projects. And here I like to welcome Henning Zülch, who is a professor at HHL Leipzig, Monika Kovarova-Simicek, she's a professor at St. Pölten UAS. Both are experts for financial communication. And with us is Sebastian Kühn, who is a director at Stakeholder Reporting and expert for ESG. To all of you, thank you so much for joining us and taking your time today. So, to kick off the webinar, let us start with a short question to you. So, how often have you used ChatGPT this week? If it works, you should see a short voting now appearing on your screen. Please vote and let me see the results. Okay, I see people are voting just right now. And most of you have status now used it more than 10 times this week. So the week isn't over, but you already have used it quite a lot. And this just makes clear that our information behavior has clearly changed in recent years. So this change has unfortunately made today's communication challenge even harder. The problem is we are living in an attention economy. So companies invest a lot of time into producing their corporate content, for example, their reports, but it's more and more difficult to really reach stakeholders' attention with this content. And now it has become even worse because we all use AI tools, as we just saw, to analyze content. And also, if you research companies, for example, if we want to inform ourselves about the performance of a specific company, and these AI tools have partly become something like the new gatekeeper between, on the one hand, reporting disclosure and our stakeholders on the other hand. The thing is, you want to be visible with your reporting disclosure in ChatGPT and other AI tools because corporate reports are the most comprehensive and verified source of information on your company's financial and non-financial development. So you can just have a look at the keywords on this slide. There is so much data within your corporate report you can find nowhere else. And the spotlight should be on the word verified information. So annual reports, in most cases, they represent verified information. They are internally verified by your management, and they are externally assured by an auditor. So for ChatGPT and other AI tools, in theory, this makes them pure gold because 99% of the global internet content is exactly the opposite. It's non-verified content. And this is a big problem AI tools nowadays need to handle with. So, but as I said, this is in theory because the question is how visible are annual reports in Gen AI tools in reality? And that was the key question of our joint research project.
Okay, so our research project is still ongoing, but today we want to present a few first insights from two pilot study we did. So on the one hand, on the left-hand side here, we conducted a pilot experiment with ChatGPT, and what we basically analyzed is how good or how bad your annual reports perform as a source in ChatGPT when asking for specific reporting content. And then we also try to analyze the impact of the annual reporting format. So is it available as a PDF or also as an online digital version on those results? And then on the other hand, we analyzed the log files of different digital annual reports. And here we looked at how frequently ChatGPT is really accessing a digital annual report on a daily basis. So first, let's start with the pilot experiment and the visibility of annual reports in ChatGPT. And what the research team did here is, to be honest, relatively simple. So they used different prompts, the ones you can see here in the gray box, in ChatGPT for 8 different listed companies. And 4 of those companies published their annual report 2024 only as a PDF. And then we compared them with 4 peers publishing both a PDF and also an HTML online report. And then our main interest was in the sources ChatGPT is using. And you can always check that directly in ChatGPT, looking at the source directly behind those paragraphs here. And we looked at, is it using company sources, so namely the digital report, a PDF report, or the corporate website? Or is it using other sources, like external sources, especially Wikipedia, Reuters, Reddit, and so on? And this slide here now shows the first results of our pilot experiment. And what you can clearly see is a big difference between the PDF reporting companies here in the bottom row and the one publishing a digital report in the top row. If you combine now the different internal company sources, so the digital report, PDF report, and the corporate website, you can see that the companies with an HTML version are by far better visible with their content in ChatGPT. We have way more sources if you combine those 3 here for the digital reporting companies compared to the PDF reporting companies. And what is also important is that you can see that ChatGPT was using less external sources if you are publishing your report digitally compared to external sources if you only publish a PDF. So if you now wonder why that's the case, the answer is because AI tools love structured data. And compared to a PDF, HTML is highly machine readable, it's easier to access, to parse, and also easier to understand for large language models like ChatGPT. And that's why, in the end, digital reports are 2.3 times better visible here compared to PDF reports. And what is also important, AI, for a digital report at least, has a source to link to specific content sections, whereas for a PDF, it can in the end only link to the cover page of a, let's say, 500-page PDF report. And to make it a little bit more graspable, to make it more specific, structured data means HTML text. So AI does not see the visual interface, which you can see here on the left-hand side, which we see as humans. It only sees the structured data, so the source code behind it. And here things like text, like figures, and also tables are structured and easily scannable by AI. So to just give one example, it's far easier for AI to understand the systematic of tables within a report using structured data like this. So then how do you optimize your annual report for AI? The answer is most is done relatively easily. Some things are very complex to do. The easy things, it comes down in the end to clean HTML, to proper semantic structure, to clear content structure, and good web accessibility. And good news is that's already, I'd say, around 70% of the work for the technical preparation you have to do when optimizing your contents for AI. However, the remaining 30% are really hard to achieve and include many specialties in those technical setups. And I can say that from our experience at Nexa because we are doing exactly this, and we often spend quite some time in optimizing digital reports for AI tools, specifically for ChatGPT. And just to make this clear one last time, less visibility with corporate sources leads to more visibility of external sources, and this increases the risk of disinformation. And I now want to jump into my browser to not only talk about it theoretically, but just show you some examples. So you should see my browser now. I just did some comparisons of JD Sports and Adidas like half an hour ago for preparing this. So you can see JD Sports, we are in the annual report 2024. It's a PDF only report with 264 pages, and they also do the XBRL version. So exactly the same thing as an XBRL version. And we compared that, or I just compared that with Adidas, one of our clients who's doing the PDF, doing the XBRL version, but also a full HTML online report. And that means in the end, I can click here on the menu, and all information which is available within the PDF is also available digitally. So I can, for example, go to the notes section and see down to the very last note, I have all information available. So for example, just here randomly clicking on Node 6, and I have all information available as structured data, also those tables here. So now what I did is going to ChatGPT. By the way, I'm not logged in, as you can see. So we didn't do any pre-prompting. Everything is a fresh browser window. And just ask those prompts for JD Sports, and then the same prompts for Adidas we did in the study. So just a few of them to underline what we are saying. How did CapEx spending change at JD Sports in 2024? And now ChatGPT will obviously always give answers and figures, but the question is, where are those figures coming from? And you can see that, as I said, here in the sources behind. And what we can see here for JD Sports is it's only external sources. We have Research Tree, Retail Week, Research Tree again, MFN, Stockopedia, and I can click here now and see all this information is coming from Stockopedia. So none of this is directly coming from JD Sports, although we have all those figures here. If I do exactly the same prompt and just change JD Sports to Adidas, we see the opposite happening. We only have sources to the Adidas Group report. So for example, I can click here, have the CapEx numbers, click here, and I'm directly within the financial highlights table of the Adidas Annual Report 2024. If I do exactly the same thing, just to give another example, for risk, asking for risk in the annual report 2024, for JD Sports, we have a lot of different sources, Market Screener España, Market Screener again. Now, interestingly, for the fifth risk stated, it's finally JD Sports directly. So the fifth risk of the second prompt is a JD Sports source. This is good, at least something. But if I, for example, look at this one here, governance and controls, and just click on it for Research Tree, remember I've asked for risks in the annual report 2024. I can click here, and now I'm within the preliminary results of 2023. So, okay, that's private, I guess. So it's, again, not really what I asked for, and not a company source. Again, doing the same thing for Adidas, what risks did Adidas highlight in their AR? We have the same story. We have all those risks, but directly Adidas Group Report 2024 as a source, even with the summary table here. And now this is not only true for financial information, but also for non-financial information. Given that JD Sports is a UK-based company, they are not reporting compliant to ESRS just yet. So that's why I didn't compare them to Adidas, but I did compare them to Adidas to Heineken. Because Heineken here, the 2024 report, very long report. If I jump to the content, you see we have sustainability statements, and then a lot of information about ESRS in general and ESRS E1 specifically, including metrics and targets. So what I did is just ask, what are the ESRS E1 targets of Heineken? We see we have almost 20 pages about that, so there should be information provided, but we see, again, only third-party sources. We have Smart Energy Decisions, Market Screener, then Script sometimes, Responsible Us. This is supposedly a Dutch website. My Dutch is not that good, but yeah, we see not one source directly from Heineken, although they already report a lot on ESRS E1. And again, last example, same thing for Adidas. What are the ESRS E1 targets of Adidas? And we only have the group report linked, and I can click here, for example, and I'm directly within the metrics and targets of E1 for, in this case, specifically. So all of this is, again, very important if you try to maintain the control of your corporate information. You have to be findable in ChatGPT. So before we move to the next study, let me clearly say we still have different limitations, especially regarding validity and reliability of this pilot experiment, since we only were able to compare 8 different companies. But we aim to strongly reduce those in our upcoming large-scale experiment, which we will talk about briefly a little later. Eloy, back to you.
Yes, so I see there were already a few questions in the chat. If you have questions to our content, you can also use the Q&A button within Teams, and we will address them later within our webinar. So what we did next is that we also cross-checked these results of the experiment based on analysis of the server logs of different digital reports, and that's something I want to present you now. So basically, what we did is that we normally are using our user statistics when we do analysis of the usage of a digital report. But the problem is, in the user statistics, you don't see tools like ChatGPT or other AI tools, how they access the report, because these are bots, and we normally don't want to track them at all. However, behind our statistics in the server log files, you can exactly see how AI tools are accessing the report. And in terms of ChatGPT, you basically see two things. So first, you see the GPT user requests. So that's basically whenever a real user prompt is leading to a request to a website. So something what Frederick just showed. So someone is prompting something in ChatGPT, and then it's requesting the digital report if it's finding the digital report. Then we also have the GTP user, the bot request, and that's basically whenever the bot is just crawling the website without any human interaction. By the way, requests are not page views. A request is any call made to a website. So, for example, when ChatGPT is requesting like a text element, a graphic element, or a table of the report, and so on, that's a request. And in our analysis, in this first one, in the pilot study, we just analyzed 5 different digital reports from the DAX 40, so the biggest German companies. Okay, so I have another question to you. I will present to you the result of that in just 1 second. But first of all, how often do you think is ChatGPT accessing an average digital report of a DAX 40 company per day? Please vote now. Okay, so I see the first results. So it's still moving. Many people say 1,000 requests per day. That's the biggest group I see so far. Okay, so let's move on with our presentation, and I show you the results. So we did this in the pilot project just for the month of May, and we analyzed just the average data of these 5 different reports. And we can see per day, on average, we counted more than or almost 4,500 requests by ChatGPT users and bots per day for these reports. And 60% of that were user requests, so real prompts on topics included in the annual reports. So again, this really shows annual reports are really an important source of information for AI tools, but only, of course, if they are visible in these tools.
Okay, so what's coming next? Let's start with our expert talk. And once again, I'd love to welcome you, Monika, Henning, and Sebastian. And by the way, before we start, if you have any questions to the webinar's topic, again, feel free to post them in the Q&A mode, and we will address them after our expert talk. Henning, let's start with you. Your team is planning a big data analysis of annual reporting log files. What insights are you hoping to gain from that?
Yeah, Frederick, thank you very much for hosting me and giving me the chance to talk about that. The thing we want to show is on the slide, but what I just want to tell you is that we analyzed, and you've seen that over 100,000 server requests made by ChatGPT, and now we're scaling up to over, I guess, 1 million, and this means broadening our database. Not only will we include more reports, but we will also look beyond ChatGPT. That's an important part, and incorporate, and you know that, other AI tools like Perplexity, for instance. So, and what is also important is, and this is in line, some of you know that, investors' darling, communication patterns have to be identified. We want to uncover sections of the annual reports that are most frequently requested. What is really of interest? And you all know management report is important. For example, let's say hardcore financial, but also sustainability, ESRS chapters. And today, the CEO, CFO, CEO letter, videos, and things like that. And what we see is there's still a lot to explore. And important is this only the starting point. Okay.
Yeah. And as a follow-up, why do you think it's important for companies to understand how their reports are being used by those AI tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity?
Okay, first of all, what we have to see is that companies lose information sovereignty. You have shown that. And that means AI is becoming one of the most powerful intermediaries between companies and their stakeholders. And only not a few, but not every company in the, for example, the German landscape has invested in a digital report. And this is worth to think about. And as always, there's no strategy without measurement. You can only manage communication success if you track it. And it becomes more important in times of a crisis. So for many companies and their IR teams, being visible within AI tools will become a critical success factor. And this is an investment they have to decide about. So that's it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm totally sure that there will be questions afterwards towards you. Thanks for now.
Yeah.
Monica, looking at you, you're now on starting to repeat the pilot experiment on a much larger scale. What are your plans exactly?
Well, so hello from my side. Thank you for having me. So first of all, we bringing in over 20, to be precise, 24 academic testers to participate in the new phase. And we are also expanding our focus beyond annual report to cover broader investor relations content, such as IR website, for example, or IR presentations. And this naturally means that we'll generate a much wider set of prompts going beyond financial reporting, so including more ESG prompts. And well, in addition, the follow-up study will include a larger company sample and also incorporate different AI tools, as Henning mentioned before. Well, that's quite large scale in different dimensions.
Perfect. And what do you personally find more interesting? How well corporate sources are represented, or how often those external sources we saw are used?
Well, actually, external sources are more interesting in that terms that they mainly bring more risk. They expose companies to more risk. One of our goals is to systematically evaluate the quality of AI responses. And so are they correct or not? For example, how accurate ChatGPT and other AI tools are answering prompts related to investor relations or corporate reporting. So in the end, this information is actually the biggest risk AI brings to investor relations. So that's why we think that it's essential for companies to make sure their own content is accessible, as you could prove with the primary experiment, and that corporate websites and corporate sources are visible within these tools. And external sources always carry a bigger risk that you do not have under control, that you actually lose the opinion and the content leadership.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now, Sebastian, we've already discussed the technical ways to improve visibility in AI tools through better reporting, with accessibility as one of the key factors. But what about the content side?
Yeah, so obviously, I'm speaking from ESG side of things, and the content side is very much still moving regarding corporate reporting, because CSRD ESS is still very much a moving target. But generally speaking, the same principles apply as they have applied for good corporate reporting in the last 10 or 15 years. Basically started out with GRI and now ESS1, which is very simple in theory, very complicated in actual doing. So you have to ensure materiality and completeness of your data, or sometimes navigate them, what is really essential. But we really want to talk about a lot of ESG content, for example. How would you get that into the report? Then how do we make our data verifiable? That means using methods, tried and tested methods. All of it is obviously being, it's becoming more resilient at the moment, because there's a lot of attention of auditors, etc., on ESG content, but it hasn't always been this way. And make your data comparable, obviously comparable to others and benchmarking sense, but also to yourself, previous years, etc. And if the data set has changed, you also should declare why it has changed. And be clear, and it says here interpretation, but especially misinterpretation proof. That means AI, more so than humans, uses your data and then cuts it short, interprets it, and quite often, we've seen it with our own tools we use, quite often misinterprets it in very minute but very significant ways. And that's why you have to really check your content, use measurements, use the same data through data sets through years, and those same principles, and then you get a good result. And you can try it also just to see what your own report is how it is interpreted. Just ask ChatGPT to look at, for example, graphical content, say an image of a certain process, etc. Ask it to interpret it and then see if it's right or wrong. And I think there's a lot of work that can be done in that.
Yeah, so a lot of things to prepare. And then in your view, how significantly will AI influence the structure and especially also the wording of those reports within the next years?
So at the moment, I think we have two schools of thought regarding machine readability of computer of reports. So we have the whole XBRL school still, and basically for ESG, that still means the XBRL taxonomy that comes with ESRS and how that's going to look like. That's a certain way. And then there's a different thing, basically the more natural legibility, as we're talking about now with AI optimized content. And I'm not certain what the taxonomy is going to do with the reporting, or what reporting is going to do with the taxonomy for ESRS, because it's still a moving target as well. So we'll see about that. But it's I think it's with ESG, it's a bit more complicated than with financial reporting at this point in time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I think looking at the time, we are at the end of our 30-minute webinar. However, as promised, we will stay a few more minutes for the questions we already got. To those who need to leave now, thanks for joining. Please follow us on LinkedIn if you don't want to miss the results of the final study. We will keep you posted there. And if you want to get today's slides, please just address a short email to webinars@nexa.com. So exactly as you can see here, webinars with an S. And yeah, Eloy, so now, are there already any questions?